Hi, everybody. Tim Hughes here. I'm the CEO and co-founder of DLA Ignite. With me today, I've got Samantha Postman, and we're going to talk about community and how online communities are such an empowering thing for individuals. And they also sometimes can help you to sell stuff, though we're not necessarily going to talk about that today. Samantha, it's great to talk to you because we talked way back in January, and here we are 6 months later. Before we get into it, I always ask this question. I don't do bios and stuff like that because I don't think anybody ever listens. Where can people find you?
Well, right now, I mostly make myself at home on Twitter. In fact, last night I hit 10,000 followers, which is quite a milestone. I know, right? And I really just started up an inactive account at the beginning of March of last year. So that's pretty good, 14 months. And I wasn't.
You've done like 1,000, about 1,000 followers a month. That is amazing.
Yeah, so that's where I'm at. I could have grown a lot faster, but man, I don't have enough time to be working on that all the time. The other
That's
place you
one
can.
hell of a platform, though, Samantha.
It is. I love it. It's a thinking platform, and that's what I really love about Twitter, actually. So the other place that you can find me is over on LinkedIn. And if you just type my name out, you can find me over there on LinkedIn. I'm not there a whole ton. I kind of been over more on Twitter, but I can be found on both places.
Fantastic. Stephen says good morning as well. Hi, Stephen.
Oh, my friend Stephen, he's awesome.
That's come through your yes, I assume that you knew Stephen, so thanks, Stephen, for tuning in. Samantha, what's your journey? Because we're going to talk about community and what you've created, but I think people are interested in about how you came to be where you are today. What is it that you've done? What journey have you taken? What left hand, what right hand turnings have you made?
You know, I think that some people are just born with a sense of adventure, and that would definitely be me. My mom said I was born pretty much running, and I just haven't stopped. I played every sport under the sun, multiple musical instruments. What's interesting though, and most people don't realize, because what they see is this polished, this polished girl from from Canada who looks like she could be from California. But what in actuality, I was born to a teen mom, well for most of my life. And by the time I was 14, my mom was married to the third time. And there's a lot of in between there. There's a lot of instability, a lot of poverty. And I would call it Western poverty because we did have a roof over our head, but I call Western poverty as an emotional poverty in many ways. A lot of people discount that. And tragedy as well. The man who actually raised me, my mom didn't marry, and he died in a 7-car pileup when I was 7. And on top of that, I was severely bullied. I had ridiculous amounts of acne. I was like the ugly duckling. I went to an affluent school where most people were 2-parent homes, Catholic school. I'm not Catholic. And so I'd probably be the least likely to be in this situation. And what I tell people is, like, I come from the wrong side of the tracks. That's how used to people say it. In the city I'm in, there's like a train track, and depending on which side you're from, how affluent you are. And I was from the wrong side of the track. And generally, people in the community that I grew up in, they don't make it out alive. They're either dead or dead inside. And so it's very rare. And so people ask me, what made you different? And I think like I was saying, I was born with a sense of adventure. An advantage of not growing up with a stable father and mother is I didn't grow up with gender roles. So my mom was everything. She fixed the car, she mowed the lawn, she did typical male things, but she did the female things too. And something that she told me all the time was, you can do anything you set your mind to. And anytime I wanted to try something, she made sure she helped me. And she accessed a major amount of government programs for any extracurricular activities. And so I optimized on those. But at the end of the day, really a mindset and hour. There's nothing you can't do if you don't set your mind to it. One, it's really important to not focus on your past. When you do, that becomes your present and your future. So live in the present. I'm an avid learner. Like, oh my gosh, I am a super learner. Like, if I could be in a classroom my whole life and get paid, that and mentoring young adults, that's all I do. I just love learning. But I also love teaching. And teaching helps reenact and close that loop and restart it it's the ultimate learning, actually, when you can teach it and you get way more epiphanies again. And so I think there's probably a lot to it, but if you are someone out there who comes from meager means, I worked at McDonald's for 4 years when I was a teenager because that's all there was. I had no network, no name. My kids now, they walk into a place, say my name or my husband's name, say they came from a farm, and boom, they're hired because they know they have a work ethic and they've been exposed to a lot. I didn't have any of those privileges. I had to work super hard for everything. But one advantage I had, I was really good at school, so that gave me confidence when everything else was bad. School and social. So I had school, and so I spent a lot of time because I knew that education, or at least going to school, was my ticket out. So
Yes.
but honestly, it's just a good attitude. Just be kind to people, be generous. People matter just as much as you do, and when you do that and you put that all out into the world, it will just continue to stay with you. And even if you don't make millions of dollars, it doesn't matter. Wealth is not about the millions. Wealth is about joy and happiness and overcoming hardship.
Fantastic. And I agree with all those things. And I think that, what goes around comes around. And you need to be making sure that you're being nice to people, because then ultimately that goes around and people will be nice to you. So one of the things that you've done in your journey, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but you've been a tax accountant, your husband's a farmer, and therefore, one of the things that you do is you immerse yourself in those subjects, so you become experts.
Yeah, so I started out, my first expertise, if you will, honestly, would be working at McDonald's, because you learn a lot of. I did training. I used to train, and I learned a lot about policy and procedure, and staffing. And then from there, my next career actually was tax expert, and so I've prepared over 7,500 tax returns, personal and corporate, mostly personal. Actually, I prefer personal. But honestly, they say you have your 10,000 hours, but my 10,000 hours, yes, I could do personal tax in my sleep. I've actually submitted a proposal to the Canadian Federal Senate Committee about a really unique idea to help stimulate the economy using the tax system that's never been done before.
Yep.
So I really understand the tax system, but what I really understand is human behavior. Because when you prepare taxes, it's at the most intimate level. Like, imagine what your tax preparer or your accountant knows about you. They know your medical, your education, your money, how you spend your money, your family life, everything. And when they're that vulnerable, there's nothing they won't tell you. I saw estates go bad, wills, like everything. And so I learned a lot about people. I learned about behavior, and I learned a lot about organizations and government and business, because when you're doing 7,500 tax returns over a 20-year span, you're getting a synopsis of a person every year. And
Yep.
so you start to pick up patterns. You start to see, what did this person do 20 years ago? And now where are they at with the planning or lack of planning, or the job, or the regrets? And you build a relationship. And so this has really helped me. People love it because with marketing, it's really good. I understand human behavior, especially when you see how people think with money. Because money is just the root of a lot of what's going on in our and how we're driven. I guess it explains a lot about how we think. So that was my number one career, and then simultaneously always running the farm. Technically speaking, I'm just gonna do a little pushback, because there's some pushback with women coming up that we're like, our husband's a farmer, but in actuality, I'm also a farmer.
Yes.
I am a co-owner, and although I don't do field work anymore, and I barely do any field work anymore, I am huge in all the business decisions. I do all the legal work, the finance work. We've met with key businesses, and I understand the marketing and things like that. So I would actually be considered a farmer. And for any of you who are out there want to know what kind of farmer, I get asked that a lot. You can go to my about page on my samanthapostman.com, but we grow commercial crops that are shipped worldwide. In fact, you may have eaten pasta that came from our farm. We grow wheat that is shipped to Italy, and then they reship it around the world. So it could very likely. We grow peas and canola oil, or canola that's made into oil in a variety. So that's my two main gigs simultaneously through there concurrently. I also did some professional photography for a period of
Yep.
time. Yeah, in fact, Monopoly, actually, Hasbro contacted me, used one of my images for a Canadian Monopoly edition at one time when there was a
Wow.
competition. Yeah, and Arm& Hammer contacted me to be on a baking soda packaging. However, what I learned is that my passion and my joy was not a good business. It took the joy away when I turned it into a business. So now I just do that for kicks. And I
Right.
use all of these disciplines to inform other ones. Like I did a keynote speech at the University of Lethbridge in the Faculty of Management a couple months ago, and it was about how you can use photography for business skills. And I was able to cross the two disciplines, and my gosh, like the feedback I got was amazing because they never thought of looking at things like from a zoom lens or a macro lens. And so that's the cool thing about what's called a polymath. So a polymath is someone who's multidisciplined and have expertise in
Right.
multiple fields. And so when we start to cross them over, we fill these gaps, and we can take connections from one and build analogies that help inform the others, and it helps solve problems in a way. In fact, there's this little T-shirt going around. It's pretty funny. It's like, I think it says something like, "Stand back, let a polymath handle it." And I was just like, and it's so true because you get a polymath in the room, and our brains can like literally shift very quickly from every perspective, up and down, over and above, and come up with solutions very, very quickly.
Mm.
And we understand problems very quickly as well.
So that's what a polymath is, in case anybody's wondering what it says. Samantha Postman polymath. You've created a community, haven't you? What was the inspiration behind doing that?
Well, it kind of gets a little lonely in my head sometimes because I know that sound I know how that might sound, but I honestly I don't want to talk about a Walmart experience, and I can only do that for a period of time. So I want to be able to talk about how we can like, and not just like political talk where you can't really do anything, but like what are some actionable things we can do to improve education right now,
Mm.
or like creatively, or one of the guys in my community, he's almost 80, but he's developed this really cool mind skills. He's an accomplished psychologist, a magician, a social audio expert. He's like super genius, and he's writing a book on mind skills. Well, these mind skills will really help amplify you for success and to achieve anything. And so he needs a place to test them out. And so we want to talk to other minds who can very easily add different elements. So I'm like, oh, I've
Right.
been thinking about doing this. And then they're, oh, have you thought about this, using it with music? Have you thought about doing this? And then together we come up with these really unique ways and create, it's like art in our head in a way.
Mm.
And so I got a little lonely in my head sometimes. And so I thought, if I'm like that, there must be other ones like me like that too. And why not build a community where we can amplify each other, be a support group, and create some collective and collaborative projects together. So that's kind of the inspiration. Part of it actually came from the Medicis. We originally called the Medici Multi-Achiever Community, and it's De Medici. And the Medicis were very powerful in Italy. They rose from, from a doctor to bankers to landing the papal accounts. They were one of the most powerful families in the Renaissance, 1600s. But what they did is they used their wealth. They didn't use their wealth to go and fight other cities
Yeah.
down. They were from Florence. What they did is they built alliances, business commerce. They funded artists and creatives and engineers, all that amazing. There's a lot of engineering that's going in Italy that was actually spread throughout Europe that came from that Renaissance that happened because of the Medici's funding and their love for multiple arts and sciences. So that was also part of the inspiration as well.
It's fantastic. So in effect, what you've done is you've created a safe space for people, as a way of exchanging ideas, and also if someone has an idea, presenting it to people and then getting other people to add to it.
Yeah, exactly. So sometimes people do a workshop. So so one of the gals was going to be presenting at the clarinet. It's a really big clarinet conference, and she was doing a unique presentation. She actually sees colors.
Right.
And oh my gosh, she's just such an amazing woman, very sensitive to the world and just brilliant. I love talking to her because her ideas just go like this. And so she was able to show the presentation to us, and then afterwards get feedback. I would move this over here. This will give you bigger impact. And so that really helps her sharpen it and then communicate better in a way that other people can land on. One of the things we've been running through the group right now is I partnered with a guy, Bobby Umar from Toronto, who's a 5 times TEDx speaker. And I've been running a subgroup inside the Polymath Mastery, Modern Polymaths. And it is for people to become TEDx speakers, because I have yet to meet a polymath who doesn't want to do a TED talk, and honestly could probably do 10 TED talks in the world, would hear every single one. I actually landed a TED talk last year, but then it was canceled because of COVID. And one of these days I'm going to do another one. I'll do one. I just haven't had the time yet. So we've been running a cohort, a mastermind on how to land a TED talk and become a professional speaker. So we've been helping them with speaker sheets and websites, what to say, how to network, and how to pitch to a TED talk. So that's also running inside, because it's really important to take all of this knowledge that we have and wisdom and share it so other people can build on it and improve their lives. So it's very important to learn thought leadership and public speaking and writing. And so that's also part of the community as well.
And I guess as it's being online, in the past, all you could do was the only place that you could go was your local town, but now you're able to engage with people across the world, aren't you?
It's truly amazing. I live in a city, it's one of these highest senior populations in Canada. So you can imagine that it would be a little bit hard for me to find some people, especially being a female. That's even harder. It's very seldom I can find a female that would, and not sometimes that has the intellectual space, but not necessarily the space with family obligations and everything else. So the cool thing about being online is it's anywhere, anytime. You can do it in the evening. I live 30 minutes out of the city because I'm on a farm. And so I can't just like go to the local coffee shop and start chatting up anytime I want. So yeah, I really love it. And if anyone who wants to join a community like us, we're just in the beta stage. We're like in the soft launch, working through the name. We were the Medici Multi-Achiever Community, and we're kind of playing with Polymath Mastery or Modern Polymaths. I know I'm not supposed to say the names until we announce, because somebody could go and steal all the usernames. So if you're going to go do that, well, that's not cool, but I do have some of the domains for it already, so we're all good to go. But otherwise, go to my Twitter account, and you can just whatever website we're using, it'll just go on there and you can apply. It is a private paid community, just because we want to make sure that people are serious about being there. And honestly, it costs quite a bit of money to run a community. Like, everyone's always like, why isn't this free? Well, one, my time is worth a ton. Like, when I do business consulting, you're getting like 10 consultants in one. I helped a woman save 3 months off her development in an hour and a half, because I was able to pull from I've traveled everywhere. I've done diverse consulting. I've consulted in Ecuador with 30 humanitarian. I've done all kinds of stuff. And so I'm able to command quite a bit, because I can offer quite a bit in a consulting. And so if you want, people get access to my mind, they can ask me a quick question. And so there has to be a compensation for that, right? So consideration.
And I agree. And often with communities, it's not about how big the community is. I'm part of one Facebook group where we've all agreed that we're going to cap it at 1,000 people, because actually we feel that that's the optimum size of the group.
Right.
But I mean, one of the things, in terms of the title of this talk, it's about empowerment, and what I'm hearing is that you're creating this community, and then it's about empowering people, as long as they have what would be called a growth mindset, and people are willing to come along. And because the best thing that you can do, best feedback is bad feedback. You don't want to go online.
We're pretty honest with each other in the group, actually. So someone will go, I'm looking at changing this or this bio, and we'll just be like, honestly, it's not even going to get you. Like, we're very direct and honest, but we give each other a permission, because in our world, when you are direct and honest with somebody, I know I could get pushback and make you feel uncomfortable, but I'm willing to do that because I care so much about you. I'm willing to risk you having a slight backlash backlash on me, because I care so much about your welfare. And as soon as everyone knows that I'm being direct because I honestly care, then the conversation is real, and it's very quick and moves very fast. So that's an important element of our community. We just know we're all there to help each other and support each other. And I honestly, if I see on someone's bio, or I see a tweet, or they're promoting themselves, I'll be like, hey, I saw this. Maybe you should try this language instead. And then they'll do it, and boom, they'll land a client or whatever, right? So that's just how our community works. We're just really about helping each other out. And because you get to know each other personally, that helps a lot too, right? Because we start to care about each other's welfare as well. But tools is very important. And honestly, just having a place to know that it's like, to say that I'm a polymath, I could get some backlash. Like if you go to Quora, you're not supposed to say you're a polymath, because that's like saying you're a thought leader or something. But I'm just, you know what? I'm not going to let people put me in a box anymore and tell me how I am and am not allowed to be. And especially women shouldn't have to pretend to be less than we are. So if I own it, maybe other people will too.
And I love what I've just written it down, which is I'm being direct because I care.
Yeah, it's true.
And I love that, and I'm going to start using that, because I'm going to steal that from you, Samantha, because I think it's a it's when people ask for your advice and your feedback, I usually say, do you really want my feedback, or do you want me just to tell you that it's lovely?
So I know we're at 20 minutes and you like to stay at 20, and I hope it's okay if I give you this quick little tip, but
I'd love it, Samantha. Go,
okay.
shoot.
All right. So I'm a very direct speaker. It's probably because my parents were German. They're very direct speakers, even when they speak in English. So what some people don't handle directness, and it can be abrupt if they're not expecting it or not used to it. So whenever I do consulting, or I have some feedback for people, I almost always ask for permission. And this is how you say it. Is it okay? And I use can, even though it's like may is the proper word, but can transfers power to you. Can I be direct with you and speak directly? I care what's going on, and if I speak can I speak directly to you about whatever it is we're talking about? And when you ask for permission, that shows them that you respect. And I'm going to tell you that probably 75% of the time, people tell me later, thank you for asking permission. It's really interesting. So that helps a lot. Ask for permission to be direct, and then they know it's coming, and they won't feel like you sideswipe them with a car, like, especially if that's not their style. And so that's what I do. And then I usually tell them it's because I care a lot. I can get we can have a direct and honest conversation if we're direct with each other. So yeah. Anyway, there's my little tip.
That's great advice, Samantha. I am going to write it down, but when we finish the interview anyway. Samantha, thank you so much for coming on and sharing not only your journey, which I think is important, but the experience and the inspiration you have in terms of creating this community. We need more of these things. This technology gives us this amazing power. And what you're doing is that you're basically taking that power and putting it, and empowering people with it. It's an amazing thing. Samantha, remind people where they can get hold of you, please.
Yeah, so you can find me over on Twitter mostly. You can DM me. My DMs are open. Also on LinkedIn, a little slower to respond over a LinkedIn. It's a great platform. It's just I'm mostly spending my time over at Twitter. So those are the two main ways that you can get a hold of me. Love to hear from you if any of these help out. You want to become part of the polymath community, or you want to hire me as a consultant as a polymath, or maybe I know somebody in my community that would be a great fit.
Or speaking directly to people.
Yeah, I actually run Twitter Spaces a lot. So if you want to hear me speaking more, if you follow my Twitter account, you can see me speaking on social audio. Last night, we ran a space for 2 hours on free business advice for startups and side hustles, where we literally had 3 top minds answer any question around the world for anyone and had a business question for free.
Amazing.
For 2 hours.
Amazing. Yeah. And congratulations on your 10,000 followers. That's a fantastic.
I can't believe it. It's just a little insane, but anyway, it's quite the journey.
Samantha, thank you so much for dropping in today. I really appreciate it. And thanks for Stephen for your comment as well. Yeah, I'll see you soon.
Yeah, thanks again. Thanks, Tim. Thanks for having me on.